This week on the Music Biz Weekly podcast, kind of dive into a topic that's been around for years online. If a band doesn't have all the original members, are they a tribute band? And what, as a fan, are you really interested in? Are you buying a ticket for memories, for the catalog, the music? We dig into the value of understanding your brand, your catalog, and what younger bands can learn from these classic bands that are going through all these changes. There's some incredible lessons to be learned there.
Welcome to the Music Biz Weekly podcast, celebrating over 15 years and over 600 weekly episodes, where Michael Brandvold and Blasco, two longtime music industry pros, discuss the very latest trends, tools, and tactics that you need to succeed in this new music business.
The Music Biz Weekly podcast has moved to a brand new YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe button below so you don't miss future episodes. Visit www.musicbizweeklypodcast.com, subscribe on YouTube, follow and rate us on Spotify, subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. We appreciate your support.
Hey, Music Biz Weekly podcast. You got Mike, you got Blasco. We're back for another week. You're back from your travels?
I am. Thanks.
You're all talked out and presented out and keynoted out.
Yes, I
am. So real quick, again, we always say this, but it means a lot. Huge shout out to Bruce, Jeremy, everybody at Hypebot and bands in town for all of your continued support for the podcast. It means a lot to us. Blasco, I'm going to throw this topic thought out at you. This is something I know you've encountered over the years. I've encountered it. Anybody who's been around, worked with classic bands that are 40, 50 years into their career, or if you're just a fan and you like bands of that era. We've all heard oh my God, it's not the original band anymore. It's just a tribute band. There's only one original member. There's only two original members. There's only three. You pick whatever number you hear all the time. And there's a lot of people out there, fans, and even people in the industry who really feel like this is a problem. I mean, I guess simple term, they think it's a bad thing. It's a problem that a band continues on without all of its original members. And what dawned on me earlier this week was, and I'll read to you what I wrote down. I said, this is uncharted territory for the bands, for fans, for the music industry, because there's no history really to learn from, meaning you can't sit here and go, well, how did this band deal with it 60 years ago? You might be able to say, look at the Beatles, but the Beatles never really continued on replacing everybody in the band. So there's no history for anybody to sit back and go, well, how did this band deal with it? And we'll look at how they did it, and we'll apply that to us. So we're in an era where we've got aging rock stars who never thought they would be doing it at the age they are now. I mean, you're a musician. When you started playing, did you think I'll be playing when I'm on my deathbed, or if I can do this for 10 years, I'd be happy? I mean, I think that's part of what we're dealing with here too, is nobody thought they could be playing rock and roll when they were 80 years old.
Well, yeah, were we talking about it last time, where rock and roll is really only 50 years old anyway? So yeah, no one had that prediction. If I think of my own sort of acknowledgement of rock and music entering my life, KISS, of course I could name every member of that band. AC/DC, could remember every name a member of that band. There's like, as I got older, Metallica, Slayer,
Yeah.
like, do I know the names of all of the guys in those particular bands? Yes, I do. But growing up, I was also around, the classic rock of, say, the Styx and Journey and Foreigner and all that. And man, to be honest, I don't know the names of the majority of the people in those bands, and I don't know that it matters, right? Like, I know the singer, sometimes, but like as it gets deep, like there was no deep affiliation of
You had no
me.
connection to him.
I didn't need to know, and and unfortunately too, like I also didn't have the opportunity to see them all either. But when I did have the first opportunity to see Kiss, it was with Vinnie Vincent and
Eric Carr.
Eric Carr, right? So the first time that I got to see them, which was my lifelong dream to see Kiss, that two of the original members weren't in the band. I totally didn't care because I had no point of reference. Like, yes, it would have been nice to see the original band, I guess, but the point of it is that Kiss as a brand, as a band, as a very important band in my career or just in my fandom, was playing a show that I could go to at, I was of an age I could finally go to a show or have my cousin bring me to a show. And, the OG guys weren't all there, but the brand was there and the songs were there. And fortunately, like, I think for me too, like they were still wearing makeup, so it was still the thing. And they had a giant tank on stage and it was like, it was still a show and pyro and, it was still a thing. But man, like, I don't know that like it matters so much of the original people being on stage at this point. I mean, I saw Leonard Skinner play not with the original guys, right? It had the cousin or brother, whoever, singing, right? There was still a few original members left alive, but like I've seen a lot of legacy bands that are missing members. Like even the Misfits, it's like, I don't even know that it matters. I don't even know I don't know if I know who the original drummer was. Like a lot of those bands passed off dudes pretty quickly. But is it the brand and is it the catalog? And to me, those are the things that kind of get you in the room. There's probably bands that the singer is irreplaceable. I don't think I don't think a Foreigner or Journey is one of those bands, kind of remarkably almost. But like, a Misfits couldn't be if Glenn got struck by lightning and could no longer perform.
But let me throw this one out, and I know you're going to get it immediately. We both grew up on it, and when this change happened, I think it blew everybody's mind. David Lee Roth couldn't be replaced in Van Halen, in my mind. Yet, he was, and the band went on to even greater success with Sammy Hagar.
It's weird
is that an anomaly to the case, or is that an example of, it can be done?
Yeah. I mean, they might have been able to have taken advantage of the MTV era, right? But like, when you tell people that Van Hagar was more successful than Van Halen, it's hard to believe.
I know. It is.
It's hard to believe. Interesting that you brought that up though, right? So there's a few cases here that come to mind: Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Motley Crue. They have this issue with the singer. The singer and the band can't operate together. And the band still continues with a new singer while the singer goes off on his solo thing. And in those instances, the people were not up for it. They did not want a solo record from those singers, and they did not want those bands without those singers. And the proof point of that is that when they got back together and they ironed out their differences and they made music again and went
They
back
went
on
right
tour,
back to the top.
dude, I saw Iron Maiden unironically play 1,000-seat venues. Like, it was brutal.
Yeah.
You know,
No.
brutal.
People don't realize Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Motley Crue. There was a period of time for all of them where they were like, yeah, you're no longer playing arenas, you're playing theaters.
Yeah.
You're going down, 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 and and now you look at all those bands and they're playing stadiums. So and I think what all this comes back to, because what I was going to end with saying here is, as a fan, are you paying to see what could be perceived as a tribute band, or are you more interested in paying to see your memories, hearing your memories? To your KISS example, I was the exact same way. I saw them for the first time on that exact same tour. And I had been a fan since the mid 70s, just never had the chance to go see them in concert. I was there because this was the music that I loved. It was the music that gave me goosebumps. It was the music that made you raise your fist. It was music. It was the songs. And we've said this through everything. At the end of the day, all that matters is the song. A great song is a great song. It doesn't matter if there was a studio musician on it. It doesn't matter, if it was electronic drums versus real drum. If it's a great song and the fans love it, that's all they care about. And I guess, in my opinion, when you're talking about bands that don't have members, I mean, first of all, you've got to look at it from the standpoint. Sometimes they don't have members for reasons that they can't change. Members literally die. Is a band supposed to stop doing what they love because that happens? In my opinion, that's a decision that only one entity can make: the band. That's not for the fans to make. It's not for media to make. That's not for the music industry to make. That's for a band to decide. Do I want to continue doing what I love? And sure, there could be consequences to that decision. Maybe you won't be as big as you used to be. Maybe you will be. But isn't it? It's their decision to make. And it's not anybody else's decision to make. And if they choose to continue ultimately with no original members, I mean, there's a few bands out there now that are still. I'll name one that I've been a fan of since the late 70s, Molly Hatchet.
Yeah.
There's a band that literally every original band member is dead. It's passed away.
Yeah.
And Bobby Ingram legally purchased the trademarks and the rights and everything else. And we all know it's a business that we're working in. So if you own the trademarks and the copyrights and all that other stuff, well, you can do what you want with it.
Yeah. I mean, I can be a fan of something. Like, I'm a fan of the songs. I'm a fan of the catalog. I'm a fan of the brand. And if I wasn't around at the time whenever the original members were together, but they're still around in some fashion, and I now have the ability to go see them, I'm still a fan of the songs, the catalog,
Yeah,
and the backdrop and the brand, right? Like,
if they do justice to the songs,
yep.
is there anything wrong there?
No. I do not think so. I find it to look, the internet is full of a lot of chatter, and people like to complain a lot. And so foreigners going on tour, no original members, and you've got the internet chatter of this is all BS and it's not real because there's no original members left, et cetera, et cetera. But then those aren't the people that are buying the ticket anyway.
Sure,
You know,
exactly. The people who, having worked with Blackie and Wasp for a number of years now, I mean, he gets that all the time too. He's the only original member in the band. Well, if you ask every fan who paid for a ticket and went to the show, they loved it. They had a time of their life. The fan who didn't buy the ticket, who wants to just watch the YouTube video, is going to tear it apart. Well, at the end of the day, I've always said this for many years. Voting with your wallet is what matters. If people keep buying tickets, I guess people like it. If people stopped buying tickets as a way of saying we don't like what you're doing, you will get the attention of the artist. The artist, the promoters, everybody else is going to be like, oh, wait a second. We can't do this. I mean, there was a period of time during Kiss's career where promoters required the band to tour with at least 3 original members. And at some point, they proved that they could do it with 2. And then the promoters are like, okay, that's fine. But, you vote with your wallet at the end of the day. That's simply it. Crying online doesn't change anything.
no.
Not buying the ticket changes
it. That's right. When people stop showing up, we've got a problem.
Exactly. You and I both know, and we've been around many bands where you've been in that meeting where it's like, we got a problem.
Right. We better find a
problem.
solution.
What is this problem related to? It's usually related to something financial. Wasn't as good as it was last year or 5 years or 10 years ago. How do we deal with this?
I feel like in Blackie's defense is just using that example. In the world of younger generations, discovery via streaming, and you're like, man, this catalog is great. These songs are great. Wow. In Blackie's defense, a lot of musicians don't age well.
No.
They kind of give up on the idea of being a player, of being a rock star, being a musician, where rock star is necessary, right? They get lazy, they get out of shape, they lose their chops. And I think someone like Blackie is smart enough to realize I got to continually surround myself with people that still give a shit and have chops and look cool and put in the effort, so that whenever this new generation of fan discovers my music and my catalog and they decide to buy a ticket and they decide to show up, they're still getting a show. Right? Like
yep.
It's these may not be the dudes on the record or in the video from 1983. However, the vibe is still intact, because Blackie, in his defense, as a singer guy, unlike other singers, has continued to put in the effort to still look like a dude that sings for Wasp, even though he's like 70 whatever years old, right? Like he still shows up as the guy, as the rep of the brand.
Yeah. He may not have the codpiece shooting out sparks at this age, but on the last tour, he had saw blades on his arms and stuff like that. I mean, you're right. There's a lot of musicians that anybody listening can think of that are like, yeah, it feels like they're just phoning it in at this point. And then you've got musicians who work their ass off.
Yeah. I mean, look, the majority. I mean, the reason why I got my first hired gun gig was because the bass player was old and out of shape and he threw his back out and he couldn't do the tour. And then I got a call and they're like, hey, are you available? Would you want to do this tour? Yeah. And that kind of started me down that path of being that guy. And then from there, that led into playing in Danzig for a short while, of which there was no original members. And then that led into Rob Zombie, which it wasn't White Zombie, it was Rob Zombie solo, but there was no original members of White Zombie in it. And so you could kind of argue that the Rob Zombie band was the original because it was the first iteration of that. But the majority of the time that the Rob Zombie brand built up to what it became was a bunch of guys that were not the original guys. It wasn't me and Riggs and
Right.
and John or whatever. And then in my time in Ozzy, there was no original members in Ozzy's band.
This kind of brings up an interesting question for you. I mean, whether it was done on purpose or not, people like Alice Cooper, Rob Zombie, Ozzy, we could name a bunch of others, always had almost rotating band members behind them throughout their entire career. It wasn't, there's people who might sit here and argue that, Ozzy Osbourne first solo album, that was his band. Well, it was Ozzy Osbourne with a band behind him. And this isn't taken away from Randy Rhoads or anybody's ability, but those bands, those musicians they just listed, as a fan, you just kind of knew every album, every tour is probably going to be somebody different. Could be a different bass player, different drummer, different guitar player. You don't know. But that was the way it always happened. And therefore, they never had to contend with, it's not the original band behind you, Rob Zombie. It's not the original band behind you, Alice Cooper. I never had an original band. I had band members. That always changed. And maybe to their credit, they were on to something when they were doing that because they avoided this backlash.
Alice Cooper is another good example of, I think that there was a moment recently when there was the original band was doing something and maybe they were going to do shows and stuff or something. They were making some music. I don't remember. But there was a photo of the original band and you're like, no chance am I showing up for that compared to the young people that he's got surrounding him on stage that give a shit about how they look, how they present, right? How they roll up on stage, right? He's got 3 guitar players. They're all really good. His band is super pro, but they all make him look youthful and they represent the brand extremely well. They play the songs extremely well. It's an amazing show. And if it was like the OG guys based on the photo that I saw, I'm like, no chance are people showing up for that.
No chance are people showing up. And no chance is that lineup going to get through a 60-day tour. Somebody's going to get sick, break a bone. Something's going to happen. And again, only because of the age element here. It's purely, I mean, listen, if you're young and listening to us and you're just rolling your eyes at this, trust me, when you hit your 60s, you're going to be like, my brain says I'm still 20 years old. My body says, F you.
Yep.
I'm sure you've been around Ozzy. Ozzy's brain was like, I was a youngster on stage. Ozzy's body was like, no, you're not. You can't do this. I mean, Paul Stanley, same way. That's why Kiss stopped touring. The guy's brain is like, I love it. I feed off of this. His body is like, nope. We've replaced all of your knees, all of your hips, all of your shoulders, you've replaced every joint in your body. You ain't doing this anymore.
Yep.
Which gets back to these musicians never thought they would be doing this when they were 70, 80 years old. Never thought.
Yeah. I think for the younger independent musicians, something to kind of pull out of the story here is just the strength of brand and the strength of catalog. And just because we're talking about, bands that have been around since the late 60s, early 70s, that doesn't change the importance of brand and catalog. And at any point, there should be major consideration for that, considering the bigger picture of that, of how it's going to age, right? How it's going to connect now and how you're going to be able to continue to resonate with a fan base, and how those songs connect emotionally with a fan base, and how they're going to able to carry that through generations, right? And so I think there's really something important to kind of really pull out of these bands and kind of really diagnose the strength of their catalog and brand, because if the strength of their catalog and brand is so much so that people will show up because there's no original members, that really demonstrates the power of brand
Yep.
and catalog.
Yeah, exactly. It illustrates the absolute importance of great songs, songs that will live on past you.
Mm-hmm.
And just you're creating that brand where people recognize a band more so than an individual member who the band is riding on. And you said something that really hit me. It's like, younger bands today have the opportunity now to sit down and think about how their career, their band is going to age. I mean, I think everybody starting a band hopes this is it. This is the band that's going to make it. I'm going to be in this band for the rest of my life. It's my career. All right. Well, think about what that means 50 years down the road. Alice Cooper, KISS, Ozzy, when they started, I am absolutely sure none of them were sitting there thinking, how are we going to age our band and our brand to be doing this when we're 80 years old? None of them thought of that. They were all just like, dude, I just want to get a record deal. Let's tour. And maybe, 5 years, that'll be fun. That'll be it. Now, younger bands do have the opportunity to start learning from history, to look at what's going on, and maybe there's not a lot you do early on in your career other than acknowledge that this is out there. That is the goalpost at the very end of your career. What are you doing? What's going to happen the first time a pivotal band member leaves? Have you thought about that? Are you going to continue? Do you roll up the shingles and close the door? I mean, what are you going to do? You hope it doesn't happen, but I think you and I both agree from a business side of things, you got to think about that and be prepared, because the odds are it's going to happen. Unless you're a solo artist from the get-go, then it's just you. But if you're a band, you got 3, 4, 5 more other people around you that are all equal decision makers in all of this.
Yep. Yeah, man. Look, I think in summary, I don't care if there's original members in a band. If I dig the band and I dig their songs, I'm not so bothered by who's presenting that. But once again, for our younger up and coming viewers, it comes down to who's writing, who you're writing with. Are you writing solo? Do you have a collaborator? Do you have outside writers? Is the collaborator in the band or out of the band? These are all the things that matter in terms of longevity. Because I would imagine that the majority of the people's aspirations are making music as a career, right? If making music as a hobby was an aspiration, you don't need to listen to us ramble on.
Exactly.
You're already
Listen,
doing it.
there's nothing wrong if you just want to do music as a hobby. Go for it, enjoy it, and have a blast. But all of this career planning isn't going to be important.
No. So yeah, so like I just kind of wrap it up with thinking about the importance of brand, thinking about the importance of catalog, and how do you analyze that? Look at the things that resonate with you. What is so strong about their brand and their catalog that kind of really strikes a chord with you, that gets into your heart and soul, that you would leave your house to go to a show, that you would buy a t-shirt, right? That you would listen to a song on repeat, that you would sing it, the lyrics at the top of your lungs while you're driving around town. Like, what are those things that resonate with you, that connect with you, that you can try and replicate and see if you can do the same thing for a younger generation? So once again, not to go on and on about that we're sounding like the old guys here talking about like these old bands. I think there's a lot to learn.
There's a great opportunity here. Yeah.
And learning from these bands, because look, even if you're talking about a younger generation of people that are inspired, it doesn't change the fact that we're still talking about brand and catalog. And there is younger generations of bands and artists that you can pull the same ideas and things from, that you can try and replicate into your own thing and put your own spin on it and add your own taste to it to appeal to then what happens next in another generation from now.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to wrap this all up. This is just what's happening now to classic bands is a great opportunity for younger bands to study, pay attention. Don't just buy into the he said, she said, oh, we're mad at this person, oh, they quit, whatever. Don't buy into the media uproar that gets stirred up around all this stuff. Kind of see if you can dig a little deeper underneath that and go, well, what's going on? Why is Motley Crue so strong that they can keep going like this? Why can KISS continue without ever touring again now? How come Ozzy's going to live forever when Ozzy isn't around anymore? Why? Because of the strength of the brand and the catalog. And to be clear for everybody, when you say catalog, we're talking songs. We're talking the music that the fans ultimately are coming to a show to hear. That's it. And you and I have had a number of conversations offline about the importance of the emotions, the memories, what you do to trigger that in your fans. And the number one tool that triggers that is a song. A song that you hear takes you back 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years to a moment, and you relive something that was important to you. And it doesn't matter that it may not be the original members playing that song tonight. You are in a happy space because of it. And that is the value of a great catalog, to keep you alive, to keep the brand alive after you're not alive.
Yep. I agree.
Cool. Awesome. We got a couple guests coming up, a musician coming up, and an industry person that's going to give us really a little insight to what's going on in this DOJ Live Nation lawsuit settlement, whatever's going on out there. So we got a couple interesting guests coming up. But once again, thank you to Hypebot Bands in Town. And wherever you're watching, listening to us, hit the follow, hit the subscribe button. It means a lot to us. And we'll see everybody next week.
Every month, thousands of musicians and industry professionals listen to the Music Biz Weekly podcast. If you have a product or service and would like to reach this audience, get in touch with Michael to discuss sponsorship opportunities.
Voices for the Music Biz Weekly podcast provided by LarryDavisVoice.com.